in transatlantic slavery across the 3 continents involved. Beautifully illustrated by Millie. And if you're joining us in the museum today, you can actually see some of her artwork in the room that we're playing the card game in as well. So yeah, that'll be good to have a look at. You can see more people wandering in.
Okay. And so I just wanted to show you the map before. Okay. Hi, do you want to play a game?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Why don't you sit here?
So there are lots of activities going on in the museum today. So you'll see lots of people milling in and out, kind of popping in for a few minutes to see what's going on. You've got object handling in the room as well, looking at our handling objects, which hopefully inspired some of our choices that are made in the card game as well. So Courtney's dealing out the cards now. I don't know what version of the game they're playing. So it looks like the version where they all have a selection of cards. They put one person in the middle and try to best match that person. But I can't see who they've got in the middle. Ah, they haven't turned them yet, that's why.
Okay. So, here are your 5 cards. Sarah, what's your name?
Clive.
Clive. Jen, Lois, Courtney, Hwa-Young. You may look at your cards. So, we're going to, let's go around this way so you're the last person. So, what we're going to do is try to create a link between the cards that you have in your hand and the one that I'm going to flip down. And it's not a speed game. It's whoever makes the strongest connection. And we decide as a group who made the strongest connection, and then that person gets to take the cards. And we play until someone has matched up all 5 of their cards.
So they might be making the links, but we will be silently judging their choices here.
And Jen, you can start. Of your 5
It's the main
cards,
person.
place one
I
that
can't
you think
see.
has the strongest link with.
Oh, so Malcolm X is in the middle.
Oh yeah,
I wonder the route that they're going to take. Will they look at American activists? Will they look at movements? We have got quite a heavy 60s focus. They might
Okay,
use that.
why? What's your
Or
reasoning for that?
Pan-Africanism, good choice.
So I made the immediate connection just based on the fact that they.
Yeah, and actually, there is an asterisk, so that's one of the things that you can tell that. So there's a quite strong link. All right, Lois.
Okay, so the Abbasidi Cooperative. So they're a group that's, they're Pan-African groups aimed at education for women, but we call it advocate is like education, Pan-Africanism, self-love, and that is what Malcolm X.
Yeah.
well.
That's true. Actually, I'm going to put this here so we know that we're making patch links with Malcolm. Okay, Courtney?
I'm going to go for Harold Moody.
Okay.
Not to copy you, but he formed the League of Coloured Peoples as he often faced racial discrimination, so he fought against it, as did Malcolm X.
Uh-huh.
And also, oh no, never mind.
No? What?
Uh,
You could bring your own knowledge other than what's written in the
well, I know
copy.
he was quite militant and
Uh-huh.
was also linked to the British Armed Forces, so I don't really think that's a link.
Okay.
I was just
you
like
could,
reading.
you can make a link. All right. I'm going to put down my power card. So they had different. They wanted to achieve the same thing, but they went about it in very oppositional ways. So MLK was pacifist, whereas Malcolm X was very militant.
One of the themes in
terms
the card set is the contrast between non-violent protest and use of force and militant protest. So here we've got Malcolm X contrasted with Martin Luther King, who was a pacifist and always used non-violent protests.
Five.
Yeah, I'm going to put down Black Power.
Oh.
Seal.
Ooh, okay.
And I think for me as well, the raised fist, because I don't know if you remember Tommy Smith for the 1968
Yeah.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Because I know him personally.
We've also got the Tommy
Really?
Smith trainers on our handling table. But here we've got
For him coming here and doing activities.
activist Bobby Seale.
100 black men who are based in London. So
Looking at the Black Power
it's
movement.
very poignant, and having met him and having heard his story and the hardships he went through, having done that as well, he missed out on a very lucrative American football contract,
Yeah.
ostracised, really had a really difficult sort of journey after doing that. So I feel that, it resonates very strongly with me. So having spoken to him about that and seeing the sort of that beacon that he has become.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do we think?
So I think they've all put a very strong case forward.
I think it's
Got a couple of
between these
American
two. So I'm just gonna
activists,
take my
also
card
some
back.
movements based in the UK and people based in the UK. So
What do you
it'll be
think?
interesting decision for this one.
I quite like Black Power because that fist in the.
Yeah. Okay. I think we go for. So that's. You've gotten rid of one of your cards. Whose is? That's yours. That's yours. Okay. All right. Ready for the next one? Okay. Skin lightening cream.
So
You can
this
read
time they
this
picked
one.
an object, which is Skin Lightening Cream by Madam C.J. Walker. She's the first American millionaire that created this project. This product, sorry. So really interesting, but also controversial. So the ideas around colorism and privilege based on skin color brings up really interesting arguments. And her kind of
Okay.
financial
You wanna play it? You
gain
wanna
from
start?
a
Okay,
product like
all
that.
right.
I'm going to start with Rock Against Racism.
Oh, they're diving straight in there
It was
with their
began
connections.
after artists used the slogan "Keep Britain White," and that's to do with that's the idea of
Jen's come with a really good link
skin lightening
that I probably wouldn't have got.
whiten yourself, or to feel that you have to.
So she's gone with a rock against racism badges.
Like who you are
A
is not
campaign
enough.
started
Yeah.
when
Okay.
musicians were using slogans
And
like "Keep
these
America,"
two cards
keep
also
America,
are
keep,
between the UK and the US.
keep Britain
so
white.
those little flags at the bottom of your card indicate those where that activity took place. Okay, strong.
It's a strong link.
I have the Children of the Ghetto record because this record was fighting against the oppression faced by many black people living in Liverpool. Especially a lot of them were descendants of black GIs. And lots of people who came to Britain during that time, well, the kids that came from those relationships and during Windrush era, they felt that they had to be white to fit in because the oppression that they faced that, you can hear in that song. And I think that's my own.
Yeah, also very strong.
And the band that sang that was The Real Thing.
Yeah.
Do you know them too?
No, but in terms of the record, I know, and the Real Thing Liverpool band.
Yeah.
As I said, that was very much one of the standout things that they did.
Yeah.
That was sort of, having grown up here.
So looking at the band, The Real Thing, and their
Also
records, I think it's Children of the Ghetto, but talking about political activism in Liverpool, and they're from Liverpool 8. Probably most famous for the Toxteth Uprising. So Courtney's opted to look at the colour bar in the UK. So in the UK, it's interesting that it's an American product, but everyone's picked UK themed cards. So although there wasn't segregation by law, there was still discrimination around the colour bar. So looking at no Irish, no blacks, no dogs, and people having those sorts of signs when advertising rooms for rent.
Cartoon that the Australian that was published in the Australian newspaper when she got upset with the umpire. No, not umpire. What do they call them in tennis? I don't know. The referee. The cartoonist depicted her in a very stereotypical way, with like really dark skin, but her opponent,
By these
Naomi.
cards, it's really interesting that you can start with something like Skin Lightning and then move on to Serena Williams and all the difficulties she's faced as a sportswoman that other players might not face, whether they were male or not a person of colour. She seems to have faced a lot of flack, so yeah, really interesting discussions around that.
And the whitewashing of a biracial woman links with like standards of beauty and the way that this
While Young's talking about a recent racist cartoon in a newspaper featuring Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka. And whitewashing and colorism are two things that are definitely very prevalent in Hollywood and the film industries as well, particularly. White actors are often cast in roles that should have gone to people of colour. And colorism is definitely a factor in casting.
And growing up, you have lots of terms as well, red, yellow, brown skin, these are all things around classifications of that skin, which is very harmful and leaves that sort of self-loathing that goes in as well.
And the thing about colorism, which I think this kind of simplifies, happens also in Korea, where I'm from, where like my mom would say, like, don't go out in the sun because you'll get dark, and then that's a sign of like people who have to work in the fields rather than educated people who are indoors. So there was like a judgment around the color of your skin.
Well, that's from slavery as well, wasn't it? Those that worked in the fields were darker skinned because of the sun.
Yeah.
And then those that worked in the house were fairer.
Yeah.
So that classification as well.
He's a great player. We're really lucky to have him on board.
Skin colour as well, being used in apartheid as well.
Yeah. And actually in Korea, you have lots of cosmetics, creams that say that's going to lighten your skin. So I think it crosses like lots of cultures.
It's very harmful stuff.
Oh yeah. It's poison. They used to have like arsenic in it. Yeah.
All sorts of
Every
chemicals.
time I used to go to my auntie's house, because I'm half Indian, she'd give me a bottle of Fair and Lovely, which is a skin lightening cream.
Oh really?
And I was like little, so I didn't know what it was, and I'd bring it back home to my mom.
She put it in the bin then.
It is harmful because you internalize it.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you gonna play?
Angela Davis.
Okay, Angela Davis. What is your link with Angela Davis's skin lightening cream?
Well, I think around I think just gender inequality and empowerment, female empowerment as well. And I think the majority of people that I'm aware of that use skin lightening cream are females. So it's that sort of thing around you having your own self-confidence, your own self-esteem as well, and not feeling that you have to fit in with a stereotype or aspire to be lighter than the complexion that you are. And I just think she's an amazing woman. I can remember a few years ago when she was in London and she sold out the South Bank, and I watched the stream. They ran a live stream as well, which would have to, I don't know how many people picked that up as well. But they could have sold out the South Bank 4 times over for that time that she was there.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So the draw that she has and the magnetism is cross-generational.
Yeah. Okay. What do we think? I think this was also she was quite proud of her natural hair, and I think it just really went as against this sort of oppressive view of beauty standards, where she was celebrating the way she looked.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Yeah, Angela Davis was an amazing part of the Black is Beautiful campaign and Black Power. So, yeah, strong link, good win.
Courtney got the hand. Who's this? Okay. All right, ready? Next one. Brixton Pound. Okay, if you want to read that one.
So they just got the Brixton Pound as their starter card. Everyone's having to think about what they want to link to it. It features Olive Morris on a megaphone, and Olive Morris was a key member of the British Black Panthers, so I wonder if they'll go with the Black Panthers link, I wonder if they'll go with other forms of protest other than non-violent protests, grassroots activism. There's all sorts of ways you can take this. I suppose it does depend on what cards they've got.
Jen, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Nina Simone, and the connection really is the fierce spirit. So I watched a documentary on Netflix, which is brilliant, about Nina Simone. Just that her fierce activism in her songs, and the fact that she was up against even Aretha Franklin, and the fact that she was singing as an activist politically. I just felt that fierce spirit was what I wanted to connect with.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just talking about how music is often used as a form of activism. She's mentioning Aretha Franklin. And that's definite link in terms of culture and community to the Brixton Pound.
Black people on it. It also gives back to the local community, and that's something that Michelle Charters does with Kumba Ramani, and in her work with the Liverpool Black Sisters to, strengthen the community and build the community, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's a.
We're a big fan of Michelle Charters. She was actually on the Walk of Remembrance with us today, so yeah, really nice to have her on board and have her in the card pack. It's really nice to give her a card saying, you're in this pack.
Yeah, they wanted to be able to go to local businesses about the racial discrimination and segregation. So it's both a form of protest and see resistance, and not bowing down to white suppression.
Okay. I'm going to go for Brixton Black Women's Group. The connection is Brixton.
Hard one to beat if you've got Brixton's connection.
But the celebration of women and of women coming together, I think, really is symbolized in Olive Morris being pictured in the Brixton Pound. Yeah.
I think I'll put Pirate Radio down.
Okay.
And I think the link being with Pirate Radio, there were adverts on there which became more sort of accessible and affordable for black business to be able to advertise.
Oh yeah, okay.
And whereas, so I think in the local community as well, you had adverts around what was food shops, hairdressers, those sort of things as well.
Okay.
And they were always part of pirate radio, and part of their funding as well, because their transmitters used to get taken down all the time. So
Did you used to listen to pirate radio?
I'm older than I look.
I wasn't gonna ask.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we think?
So many good ones. Yeah.
I wonder what our commentators are thinking about this one.
What are we thinking, really? I think, Brixton Women's Group is a really strong link, but I actually really like the Pirate Radio link as well. I think that's really strong. Talking about grassroots activism, and Pirate Radio really changed mainstream radio and had a lasting legacy. Groups not feeling like they were being catered for set up pirate radio stations across the country. License fees just weren't accessible. I think they have gone with Michelle's Charters. So looking at another female activist, yeah. We like her, so that's a good link.
The card that they've just come out to start with is the NAACP's Lynched Yesterday flag, which they used to put out at their offices every time a black person was lynched, which is when you're killed without trial. Yeah, you're killed for a crime without trial. So there's a lot of racist uses of that.
And it was often used as a way to terrorise black communities. So yeah, not very nice cards, but a really important card to look at.
Sense I'm going to, because it's in the museum.
Ooh, you
where
got the.
We are. International Slavery Museum. Just if it's part of the collection here, and I mean it's important that we remember, and it's awful to. But,
Okay.
Chan's chosen the Sankofa bird, and that is the symbol of Slavery Remembrance Day. The thing about the bird is it's moving forwards but looking backwards, so the importance of always learning from the past. That is an interesting link. Not one I necessarily would have made, but interesting.
Flag, because the NAACP would have it outside every time someone was lynched, to show and tell people this is what happened, and same thing with that educational group.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the Macpherson report, both because they're trying to highlight institutionalised racism, obviously because lynching was very, I don't want to say popular, but common in the South of America, and Stephen Lawrence was murdered in a racial attack, so there's a link between the provenance, and that was in 1993, and it wasn't until 2012 that there was any justice served, and this was popular during, obviously the transatlantic slave trade, and it still carried on even after the abolition.
Right, actually, a lot of the, so I would just want to highlight what these black bars mean. So this is the Journey to Justice card that shows the timeline, and they correspond, so you can kind of tell when that was. So you can see. So it did happen after the abolition of slavery.
Well, it's links to the KKK, and they still wanted,
It's featured in
Confederate flags.
that song that Billie Holiday
Yes, strange fruit. Yes, that's right. So I'm gonna go for. I'm not sure. Okay. I think the We March sign. So this was one of the placards during the March on Washington, and I guess they're both symbols of trying to gain public awareness about what was going on. Obviously, they're very different kind of flavors of awareness. But it happened in the public sphere, I suppose. That's my connection.
And then you have the Million Man March, which I think is 23 years ago, I think, in October this year, I think, something like that, off the top of my head. But that had a great effect on me.
Oh, really?
Seeing that take place.
Yeah. Okay.
And watching it on TV as well, and it really was something that stood that really did grab me, my younger self.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like to see this outside a building window, like. Would you like to play your card?
WB Dubois?
Yeah, okay.
I think, the first African American to go to Harvard, but also a son of slaves, and his activism as well. And I think it was a different tact in terms of him coming from a more, what's the word for it, using the sort of the platform of being an educated man, and trying to highlight the inhumanity that was going on with very powerful oratory and reasoning as well. I haven't read enough of him, actually. I need to.
Dubois was also a founding member of the NAACP, so a really strong link there. I don't think he realises how good his hand was just then.
One of his books on Kindle. It is powerful, but then, I don't know, because on one side it is very powerful and he was an intellect and the stuff he wrote was, was like the, what's it called, like the base of the civil rights movement. But you also had some black people are Negroes, but some black people are educated. But I don't associate with the Negroes. So it's kind of like, internalized whiteness thing.
Yeah, Lois made a really good point about kind of Dubois and how he could be seen as a divisive, controversial figure. He sees himself as he would have been seen as a black intellectual, could be quite dismissive of other people and their methods of empowerment. So, she makes a really strong point.
10% of black people are talented and not Negroes, and then the rest
Oh, really?
are trash.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that about him. Well, I mean, so the thing that I picked up from his writing is the idea of the double consciousness, where you can inhabit two beings at the same time, which people in positions of oppression have to inhabit.
It was interesting because what's his name? Frantz Fanon also had the same kind of idea, because he said that in one space, a black man in the intellectual space, he has to, take on whiteness, but he knows that he's not like it, but he's like, I am the talented 10th, I'm special.
That's why we need more feminist thinking in everything. Okay, I'm gonna say. Oh, okay. Sorry. What do we think? What's the link here? What would be a good link?
You would go for Layla.
Some of them are definitely more interesting links than I would have made myself. Definitely the International Slavery Museum. but I'd have to pick one of the people, one of the figures who were integral in the NAACP.
Why do we need to have a slavery museum in London as well? And we have a slavery museum here in Liverpool. It's well established and doing great work. It's like, that argument started up now. But obviously there are vested interests involved.
Well, I don't think you can have. I think you can always have more, but it does seem too London-centric to.
Well, my argument was with people that I know who've got the Black Culture Archives, and it was like, hands up, who's attended, who's been?
Yeah.
And only half of my friends have been, you know, and that's in London. So it's there on the doorstep. It's been open 6 years now, at least, and only half of my friends have been. You know, so
I wonder if they'll have a chat about the idea of introducing a new museum of slavery in London. That's been in the news recently, and lots of people were like, hey, we've got one already in Liverpool. But I personally, as a person that works here, doesn't see any harm in there being two museums around slavery, because it played such an important, integral role in building the Britain that we know.
LA against apartheid banner.
Looking at the L8
Very
against
Liverpool,
apartheid.
Card here. I think this is a very interesting artifact within the collection as well.
Apartheid group encouraged boycott of products from South Africa, and that was one of their ways of protest.
Yeah, very recent. That she's just become Liverpool Metro Mayor.
Yeah. She was there at the ceremony today, earlier.
Gosh, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the political
Anna Rothery?
activism connection there.
I think that's who they've just put down. Yeah. And also on the walk today, our new, very new Lord Mayor. In fact, it didn't quite make it on the cards. If she'd have been made Lord Mayor a week before, she probably would have been on her in for a cut.
Racism and discrimination in Liverpool and in their Air Force, and that links to the Liverpool against apartheid, because I think Liverpool came together to show that they didn't agree with the inequality, and she stood up and said she didn't agree with the inequality in the Air Force and became a first class airwoman. So
Yeah, that's strong. I also have a Liverpool one. That's Dorothy Quia. Do you know her?
Oh, she worked in London. She worked in Harrow, didn't she?
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh,
all time,
okay.
Dorothy
Oh,
Quia.
yes, she did.
Our memorial lecture's named after her. We're really close to her family still, and after her passing, we've taken in her archive and library. So we're just looking at making that accessible to the public now. Yeah, she'd always be a winner for me as a really strong Liverpool link.
In setting up this museum that we're in now. Quickly, but you go ahead, and then Courtney will put her card down.
She's the one out of the news. We've got Catherine Johnson,
Yeah.
who mathematician, helped to put American into space.
Yeah. She
Which
works for
I didn't know
NASA.
about until I watched that.
The hidden
recent
figures.
film,
Yeah.
Hidden Figures,
Yeah.
And that kind of like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, it's things that I'd read leading up to going. But obviously a woman who's inner strength and battled, and her intelligence shone.
So both Catherine Johnson and Lillian Bader were one of the first black women in their fields. So Lillian Bader was the first black woman in the RAF, and Catherine Johnson works at NASA, doing very complicated maths. But I'm not sure if I'd link them to the Elite Against Apartheid group. It'd probably be more of a Liverpool link for me.
Try the Mary Seacole House, because they're both in Toxteth, and the Mary Seacole House enabled people to challenge
Anna Rothery and Dorothy Quia. So I'd probably go along those lines.
fight against apartheid was also against the inappropriate treatment of obviously non-white people in South Africa. So that's fine.
Okay, alright, what do we think?
I think it's between Anna and the Murray Sequel
Yeah,
House.
I'd have to say that as well, so I'm going to take my card back.
They're just narrowing their
I'm
choices
leaning
down to the
towards
Mary
Anna.
Seacole House and Anna Rothery. Poor Dorothy. I think Anna won that
Okay.
round.
How are we doing? You have
Anna's
two?
card won that
You have
round.
3 left. You have 3 left.
Oh.
3, 4. Okay. I still have all of them. Okay, ready? Harriet Tubman stamp. This is quite interesting, and we actually have it back there. I'm going to bring it to show the cameras, but you can read that while I bring.
One of my favourite objects that we have in our handling collection is the Harriet Tubman stamp. Harriet Tubman is an abolitionist. It freed around 300 enslaved people as part of the Underground Railroad. She was going to go on the $20 bill, but President Trump stopped that, I think, in 2017. But then an artist called Dan O'Wall created this stamp, so you could stamp her face onto the $20 bill over Andrew Jackson, former president, but also former slave owner. So really incredible form of activism. And he did it in a really clever way, so it doesn't cover over any of the serial numbers, so it's still legal tender. So you're just a really impressive way of using activism.
Making money from their art.
I do want to see it. She has so much sass.
Yeah.
But just because I'm going on Rock Against Racism again.
Okay.
For the statement symbol. I think
Yeah.
that it's such a statement symbol. This is, very iconic.
So art is often a way to provide representation for marginalised people, like black people. So both the Harriet Tubman stamp and Rock Against Racism are opportunities to bring the struggle against racism and provide more representation of black people and bring that to the fore in the artistic world.
Also, like the reclaiming of history, like taking up what's yours and claiming space, learning about, the people who came before you.
Yeah.
I think I'll go with Harold Moody because although I don't think he's as known unless you study the subject as Harriet Tubman would be, but he's still a significant figure against the fight against racial discrimination.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go for Dorothy Quia again. A strong woman. And she was a strong woman. Yeah. It's my hand's
Yeah,
not that
I think
great for this one.
Kwai Young's got a really good link of just strong female activists. I think Jen had made a really good point about it being an object. An object's really, really important to like remembering the struggle for equality, and keeping that in people's minds by just like small items.
I think it's between these two. I'm gonna go for Catherine. They're both American. I think that's like a stronger thing then. So there you go. Okay. The Negro Motorist Green Book, as recently featured in the movie The Green Book.
Have you seen it?
No.
My friend said it was very white savior.
I've only seen trailers.
Have you seen it?
Not trailers. I've seen a couple of trailers.
I did see the
They
trailer.
said they never consulted the guy's family. They only consulted the Italian guy's family.
Oh,
It's
really?
like, why?
Sad.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the Green Book.
They were just discussing the recent film Green Book, which was inspired by the objects on the table. I'm not sure, did it win an Oscar? I think it might have won an Oscar, but maybe it didn't. As Lois was saying, a lot of people criticised it as kind of like a white saviour film, where it's about the relationship between a black piano player and his white driver, but the film focused more on the white character.
And the Green Book itself was just helping African American people navigating when they were travelling, so knowing which places were safe to stop and access.
Oppression of sexism and racism, and this was also to help black people navigate around the South. Both of them help people navigate different spaces. So.
Yep, I'd go with that. The Green Book. Oh, the cooperative. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to go with Greensboro City.
Okay, why?
Because they're both fighting fighting for desegregation of establishments.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Greensboro was successful. This was Green Book.
They both have the word green in it as well. Okay. I don't really. Okay. I'm gonna go for the Brixton Black Women's Group. I think this sort of like the grassroots idea is very similar with like trying to create a system that works for the people who are kind of caught up in a system that doesn't work for them. Like an alternative is what I'm getting from the Green Book. So I think there's links between that sort of resistance in a way. Very similar to the cooperative.
Sort of struggling with the two that I've got left. I'm struggling to make a link, but again around black empowerment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Black empowerment. Okay.
I'm going to go for Rock Against Racism again, just because it was something that was brought in against racism and was involved in that sort of fight against racism and trying to help.
And it's pretty multiracial movement as well.
Yeah.
The bands that came together.
Okay, what do we think?
You want the Clash involved in that?
Were the Clash involved?
I think the Clash involved in that. Certainly.
This is when this card came up. This is when I realized Eric Clapton was a white supremacist. I didn't know that before.
Just having to think about their choices.
I'm leaning towards this because I like the connections that you were making.
So looking at community activism is, I think, the link they're gonna make in supporting black communities. Yeah, Abyssindi has won.
Okay. Ready? Manchester Pride flag. This is very new. It's added to their to the collection.
The new card is the Manchester Pride flag. So it was one of the first Pride festivals in the UK to include a black and brown stripe on the rainbow flag to recognise LGBT people of colour. So we'll see what they come up with.
Outing of the flag? Yes, for this year.
Yeah.
So it'll be the first time that has these two other colours, the black and the brown.
Yeah, I think it's got a really strong intersectional link as well. So looking at kind of discrimination faced by LGBT plus communities and also faced by people of colour, and how sometimes people of colour have been excluded from those communities as well.
As a gay person myself, I was choosing between this kind of a clash between Nina Simone and more Pan-Africanism. Because when I was watching the documentary about Nina Simone, as a gay person, I did feel, and as a gay person with bipolar, I was like really related. I related more to her bipolar and her struggle and her oppression and her wanting to. I'm a musician as well, so I was, when I heard about her singing and her activism and using that for her feelings of oppression, it really, I felt a connection there. But yeah, I put that down because of the shared struggles and the colour of the flag as well.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, I haven't gotten rid of any of my cards. But okay.
I have Lillian Badger.
Yeah.
Because I think adding the black and brown to the Manchester Pride flag, it shows that they are acknowledging that there is like a different struggle for people of colour, and Lillian was someone who had to struggle with the dual nature of the sexism and racism, and with people who are LGBTQ and a person of colour, they have to struggle with that, and it's extra, oppression. So.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this one, but I'm going to go for the segregation sign. Because all the ones of oppression, that's how I'm showing solidarity. So I think
These links, all of these are really strong cards looking at intersectional issues, and also looking at like colour birthplace and racism. Maybe just because the flag's such a great object.
The nice thing about this is it's quite intersectional between the religions. And it's the sort of same here, where it's not just the LGBT-ness of it, but they're also bringing in race. So there's a lot of kind of solidarity and intersectionality between like the struggles.
I think I'll put down pirate radio. But my thinking of it is the sort of evolution of it coming into community radio stations. Community radio have a lot of programs around differences in terms of gender and relationships as well, and are sort of challenging the sort of entrenched sort of thought patterns of especially in the black community, around being gay and or having relationships with same-sex relationships as well, and having come from a father who was very homophobic, and having to go on my own journey as well of understanding and moving from that to embracing and hopefully now being very enlightened, or far more enlightened. So yeah, that's why.
Okay.
And Visitor is really bringing his personal experiences into every card that he puts forward. He's kind of putting this forward, but also telling you a little bit about himself and his experiences. And I think that makes it even more of an interesting game, even more powerful.
People as well. Yeah, and it was a real big thing that helped the gay community. And it also was solidarity between the black community, Windrush community, and the gay community, because a lot of them would have like their dances in like a black auntie's house, and they would listen to pirate radio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's this one better. Yeah. And there's also the element of celebration in it. Because Pride, it's a big party. Okay.
Well, yeah, because at the moment with Pride, I think you can still go to different Pride every weekend, which it started way back in June, so it wasn't going right through to mid-September. There are different Prides all around the country. So,
Yeah, the Liverpool one was 3 weeks ago, I think. It rained. There you go. Wow, okay. You have one card left. All right. Ready? Oh, Toxteth Uprising helmet. No, it's an uprising, not riot.
Liverpool focus card. Look at the helmets worn by the police at the times of the Toxteth uprising in 1981. Also known as the Toxteth riots. People were facing lots of discrimination around housing, in job opportunities. Be really interesting to see what everyone picks. Difficult object for us to have in our collections because it brings up so many emotions when you see something like this. It was the first time that tear gas was used against a rioting crowd in British mainland, so it had only been used in the UK and Ireland before.
Liverpool, black people in Liverpool, that this song highlighted, it led to the uprising because people couldn't live with that oppression anymore.
Yeah. And the song was an anthem for the Toxteth uprising. Very strong. I might not even bother because.
Rock Against Racism.
Yeah.
Because it's around the same time. And it's in the same era of national, like talk about the National Front as well, and the rise of racism.
Yeah. And actually, if we look at
Really struggle to beat The Real Thing and their links to Liverpool because they're directly talking about oppression faced by that community. So, yeah, let's see what everyone else has got up their sleeve. But they are shorter on the amount of cards that they have, so links might be a bit harder to make at this stage, especially for our visitor who's only got one card left because he's doing so well at this game.
Oh, I don't know. Okay. I'm putting this because I have nothing else to put. How are you going to link Dubois to
That's
the...
exactly what I'm struggling with.
Want to buy it now, but it's not available for us to buy it. So as soon as it's available to buy, we will buy it. Okay, it's really good.
Thank you.
That's what I'm thinking of sitting here as well. I want to buy this. So. The young people I work with.
Come on, Dubois. Police
Yeah,
helmet.
I'm struggling.
Hard when you've only got one card left to make the links as easily. I don't think he's going to win this round.
And wrote, I don't think I think I read of his spoke about sort of an aggressive reaction, whereas you have that with Malcolm X and other people as well. And funny enough, I was just thinking to myself, I went to see a screening the other day of Do the Right Thing.
The Spike Lee one.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that. I saw that when it first came out, and I just remember at the very end the two statements that come from Martin Luther King and come from which is about Martin advocating peaceful resistance through protests as well, whereas Malcolm saying it has to be the armed struggle as well. So, and that's still so very powerful at the end of that film.
Yeah.
Those two statements coming down. But against discrimination, where I don't think anything that I read of his said about being, reacting aggressively.
Well, what do we think? I'm going to take mine out because it doesn't make any sense. I would say it's between...
Tenuous.
Yes, so you take yours. I'm going to say it's between these two.
And I'm swaying towards that one because of the time.
The song.
Yeah.
And that time.
This is also the choice that I would have gone for. You can make the police link with the McPherson report, but I think, they're going to go for Children of the Ghetto and The Real Thing.
So we've got the Toxteth Uprising again, a different card. So they could make links with police brutality in America, or with intersection between racism and classism maybe, or direct action with the violence. Could make lots of links.
Uprising, and it's important to look back and know where you came from and why that uprising was so important. And I think this organisation helps to highlight that for younger people, that, you know, Pan-Africanism, knowing where you come from and to fight for what you believe in, and that's what they teach. So
yeah, okay, wow, okay.
Right, I'm going to go for the McPherson report again, because of the big campaign before.
Yeah.
T-shirts, basically.
Yep, okay, good. Okay, I'm going to go for Dorothy Kuya. I think she was active around this time. I don't know, maybe she was in London, I don't know. Again, the Liverpool connection is what I'm going for here. Okay, Dubois. That's a strong card, though.
It is a strong card, but yeah. I can't link him to...
A really strong card if you weren't looking at the Toxteth Uprising. Unfortunately, we've had 2 cards in a row looking at the same thing, so it might be a bit harder for him to make his case.
That view of working your way, or proving your worth through your intellectual capabilities.
Yeah. And, more of a pacifist. Okay, what do we think? I'm going to take mine away again. I think it's between these two. What do you think?
I don't know.
Maybe we can have some help from our commentators.
Police connection with the McPherson is interesting. Just because of how the police responded there and how the police are being looked into there, so moving on from...
Yeah. So that's the difference in time, you can tell. And it did take a while for the report to acknowledge systemic racism within the police force, and this one was targeting a lot of black and brown people. So, okay. Okay. Brown versus Board of Education. Do you know about this one?
We're looking at the
It's quite a landmark case.
for Brown versus the Board of Education, where a parent wanted to send his daughter, I think it was his daughter, to the nearest and best school that happened to be all white. So it was challenging segregation laws in the US. So yeah, 1960s America. I wonder what cards people have got left to put down.
I don't remember her name, but she did die recently.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm going to go for Nina Simone. It was because of the segregation at her concerts, and she talked about her family, and her family wanted to be there, and she would bring them to the front because they were made to sit at the back, and she would actively try and fight against that.
Oh,
But
okay.
It's that segregation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really strong link, and Nina Simone talks about the discrimination she also faced when she was younger, and training to be a classical pianist.
Advocate of education, and the little girl, her parents wanted her to get a good education and not just go to a black school where the education wasn't as good just because of the color of her skin. And these people now fight and help young people to get good education and love themselves and learn about themselves. So that's
I'm gonna go for Greensboro sit-in because well, it happened around the same time during the civil rights in America.
Yeah.
And also because obviously they're both fighting segregation.
Yeah.
Eventually, they were successful.
Okay. I'm gonna go for MLK. I think on top of all of his protest and activism, he did try to push for legislation to decriminalize. Against racial discrimination, and this is like segregation was part of racial discrimination, and he tried to do it through legal systems, which I think is the link.
Did worries around education, obviously with him championing education, and obviously his father wanting his daughter to have access to unrestricted education for her as well. And so I think that it's still part of the NAACP's thing around trying to educate and to fight for equality for the peoples as well. So that's how he was probably
This might be a tough round because everyone's made a really strong case for their cards. We've got really strong segregation links. A lot of the cards are around the same time period as well, so yeah, you can make that case as well. A lot of American cards as well. I think my choice would be the Greenboro sit-in or Nina Simone possibly. What do you think you go for, Lola?
What's the card in the middle?
So the card in the middle is the Brown versus Topeka Board of Education.
That's something the Greensboro system, a lot of young people were involved in that, so it fits with the education theme. I don't know.
And it has been immediately knocked out our favourite. Why did they do this to us? It's like we're not very good commentators.
These two are really strong, but then the segregation would be really strong with Nina.
It was my second choice, so I'm not too hurt.
What do you
like
think?
The education.
Yeah? Okay. So should we go with education?
Do we have a winner?
We have a winner!
I really enjoyed that. It shares everyone's views and thoughts, and it's really,
I don't know.
we don't have time for another.
She did.
No, I didn't know that either. So you learn something.